Welcome to the Half Point Per Podcast Sunday morning stream edition. This feels like a throwback, Dalton. This is the first time,
It's
and
been
I
a
think
while.
2 years ago we did this on a weekly basis for a little bit, kind of died out, but we're back. Obviously, no normal pod this week was just tough with the holidays, tough with the NFL scheduling half of its games before Sunday this week. So is what it is. That's also made things very tough. For me specifically, from an injury standpoint, I'm sure a lot of other people are in similar boats of, do I play James Conner? Do I have to play this guy that plays on Wednesday, which is what I had to do because we didn't know about James Conner. Oh, Chuba Hubbard's out, and like Anthony Richardson is now out. Just a lot of guys in and out. So I'm sure a lot of questions. So hopefully we can just jump on, have a quick start sit stream discussion. Shout out to the new Half Point Per Podcast sign above Dalton's head. Pretty slick back there.
Tis the season.
Tis the season. On that note, Dalton, tis the season for your week 17. I don't know if we want to call this like start of the week or just like a guy that you're telling people to start, but your week 17 start is
It's Tajay Spears.
yeah.
Um, he's had 4 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks as basically the second most snaps of any running back on the team.
If he's gonna keep scoring them in that very cool Statue of Liberty way, I don't know how we can't keep starting him.
Yeah, well, and he over the last 2 weeks, and this is a very bunk stack. It's just 2 weeks, but he ranks first in running backs in elusiveness and second in forced missed tackles. So he's been what we've talked about for 2 years with Tajay Spears and what we've kind of expected out of him. He plays the Jaguars defense that is 28th in the NFL in rush defense, and it's a relatively meaningless game. But I'm pretty sure this coaching staff wants to see what they have with him. Tony Pollard's contract does notoriously already have an out in it for this season. Not saying they're going to get rid of him, but if Tajay Spears is looking better and cleaner, they're definitely going to want him. And it looks like a rain game. And I don't think the Titans want to rely on Mason Rudolph anyways. So it's a great spot for him to be in. I would probably have him in my top 12 running backs with the way this week has gone.
Yeah, it's funny. You say rain game and all that, which is true. I do have multiple Titans passing game guys to talk about later, so we can get to that. But yeah, I mean, if you have Tajay Spears, he did not get you here until last week if you started him. But if you are lucky enough to have Tajay Spears on your team for a fantasy championship, or if you are in your Sacco and you're trying to avoid getting last place, he might be the guy to at least bail you out of that and make you at least not completely hate yourself for the draft pick 4 months ago. But yeah, Dalton kind of alluded to it, but Tony Pollard, do we have an official designation for him today yet? Last I saw, he has the flu and his status was in jeopardy.
He has the flu. He didn't travel with the team, and he's out.
Okay. I just saw that he wasn't going to travel with the team, and if he did get there, it was going to be separately. He does also have the ankle injury, so makes all the sense in the world for Tony Pollard to not be out there. And yeah, we obviously have been all in on Tajay Spears, the player. It's just Tajay Spears, the role, has not come with it. And this week, I think it's going to. And like you said, a weather game where maybe they lean on the run, and also just against a very bad defense in the Jaguars. So this is obviously a great spot for Tajay Spears. And another guy who I think is in a pretty good spot. He is we'll say, less sexy pick. You're not putting him in your lineup and super jacked about it, probably. But I think Adam Thielen is a really good start this week against Tampa Bay, who has been one of the best rush defenses this year. I think it's them and the Eagles as kind of the top two if you just look at like adjusted yards allowed per game, or as like a adjusted schedule yards allowed or something like that, I think is the actual name of the stat. And then you look at them against receivers. The Bucs have allowed, or against quarterbacks, they've allowed the second most pass attempts per game this year. They've allowed the fourth most fantasy points per game out of the slot. Thielen has run close to 80% of his routes from the slot this season. Obviously, no Chuba Hubbard today, no Jonathan Brooks, obviously, as well. So it is going to be the Blackshear and Mike Boone show, I think, in the backfield. So that's just like that is a very weak rush attack going against a very strong rush defense. But then you have a quarterback who has played pretty well, a receiver who's had 24% target share since he's been back for the last 5 weeks. He's been the wide receiver 27 in fantasy points over that stretch. I believe there's been a bye mixed in there too. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But Bryce Young, post-bye, has been the quarterback 10, has been playing pretty well. So I think Thielen is in a nice spot. And this game just shapes up as a game where I think because of game script, because the Bucs offense is very good, and because of a very bad rush attack against a very good rush defense, the Panthers are going to need to throw the ball today.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish this was Jalen Coker, not Adam Thielen, but it is what it is here. It's a pretty interesting game because the Bucs still kind of need to win to get their seeding.
Yeah.
And the Bucs are obviously trying for a couple of records. Bucky Irving could be their first rookie running back to have 1,000 yards. Mike Evans needs 184 yards. And it seems like everybody's in on the Bucs passing attack for this game, but nobody's in on the Panthers passing attack, which has been, above league average since the bye week. And since Bryce Young has returned, he's looked like a middle tier NFL quarterback, which is more than a lot of people thought. But
yeah, absolutely.
All offseason, I was saying it. It just took him being benched for Andy Dalton for him to finally get there.
Just took him being benched and then going to London because basically since London, and that was when they had their bye week, he was like solid when he came back. But after that London game is when he really kind of took it up a notch, because I think after the London game, they played one game and then it was the Chiefs game. And that Chiefs game was the first game where it was like, wow, he is ripping it all over the field. And that's kind of been the Bryce Young experience for the most part the last month or so, which has been really cool. And obviously Coker has been in and out with injuries too. And I believe he's playing today. So they have a fully healthy receiving group. Really, this will probably be because Coker, I think, played last week, but it was his first week back from injury. Theoretically, this is the healthiest this receiving group has been with Bryce Young playing this way all season.
I think he played week 1 of the fantasy playoffs too.
Did he?
He had the 84-yard touchdown.
Well, I think that was last week. Maybe it was week 1.
The schedule has royally screwed me up on what week is what week.
It's true. It's fun. Who knows? My wife asked me this morning, so who did the Chiefs play this weekend? I was like, well, they played Wednesday, which somehow is the same week as the games that are happening today. So.
And they also played Saturday.
Oh, man. Okay. Sits of the week, I am going kind of along those same lines as the rush attack against the strong defense. And I'm looking at Dallas. I'm looking at Rico Dowdle, who I believe the only defense better than the Bucs in the rush yards per game stat that I just rattled off this year is the Eagles. Dowdle just went 13 for 23 on the ground last week against the aforementioned Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The rushing game, for the most part, for Dallas just has not been good this year. Now you have Cooper Rush at quarterback. You have no CeeDee Lamb. You have the Cowboys having one of the lower implied team totals this week. They are 7.5-point underdogs despite no Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett in at quarterback on the other side. And just you look at games where Rico Dowdle has played and they've lost by double digits. His carries have been 7, 5, 12, and 10. And for him to return value today, he probably is going to have like 18 to 20 carry type of game and a couple of receptions. I know it's tempting to want to go back to the well with Dowdle because he may have played a big part in getting you here outside of last week, but he had 3 100-yard games, so maybe your team got hot and made the playoffs and made a run, and Dowdle was a big reason for that. But I just would not advise going back to the well and hoping for a big Rico Dowdle game this week. I think there's a lot of things working against him.
Yeah, he was actually going to be my sit, but I can give a different one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not a good look. The Eagles' rush defense has been one of the best in the NFL over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, they're without CeeDee Lamb, so I don't think the secondary is going to be too scared of what the Cowboys are going to be throwing at them, and are going to likely look to take away that run game all day long.
I mean, Jonathan Mingo doesn't have the Eagles shaking.
Has he played yet? I don't even know if he's played.
I saw someone tweet a picture of his game log the other day. Let me go find it. It's so funny.
But there's not a lot going on that side of the ball. The Eagles are probably going to be a heavy run team with Kenny Pickett in at quarterback. And then even Kenny Pickett doesn't seem fully healthy, so I don't really expect them to want to get this game all mucked up and get cute with it. So they're probably just going to look for a possession game and to walk out of Jerry World with a W here.
So since Jonathan Mingo, they traded a 4th-round pick for him, right?
Yes, they did.
So he has 4, 8, 10. He has 11 targets in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 6 games. He hasn't had a target for 3 weeks. He has 2 catches for 10 yards on 11 targets with the Cowboys. And they trade a 4th-round pick for him.
Oh my God.
Oh, man. If you don't have anybody else for a sip, that's fine. I think Rico Dowdle.
I was going to do the Dolphins wide receivers. There's no Tua.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, including HN here. This Dolphins team doesn't have a lot to play for anymore.
It's just so hard to sit HN.
It is.
Even without Tua. But I mean,
would you start HN or Spears?
Spears.
Yeah.
I think you're still starting HN, but it's just one of those very unhelpful terms that you hear from people all the time, but it's true. Yes, you're probably still starting him, but you just have to lower your expectations. I don't think you can bench him, but you're just not going to get the same day out of him because the passing volume just goes away without Tua, and obviously this offense just does not move without Tua. We've seen it for multiple years now.
And rest in peace, Johnny Smith. It's been a really good run of a season, but I don't think you're going to have a good week. And Tyreek Hill,
he's playing. I mean, he was pretty uncertain to even play until this morning.
We're going to have a lot of fun offseason conversations around Tyreek Hill because I'm not sure what to make of this season for him, but it's been incredibly disappointing in so many ways. He's probably the worst 1st-round pick that didn't lose the season to injury like McCaffrey did.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. ADP, who else in the 1st round? Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously good. Saquon, I think, was fringe 1st
Marvin
round.
Harrison Jr.'s, I think, a higher wide receiver than he is right now.
Is he really?
Let's just look.
And Marv might be. I saw someone tweet this last night. Is Marvin Harrison Jr. a top 4 rookie wide receiver right now? And I think that's a legitimate question.
Is he a what?
A top 4 rookie wide receiver right now, and you're telling me he's had a better fantasy season than Tyreek Hill.
Let's see here. So we take a look here at half-point scoring. Tyreek Hill's 21, so he's still ahead of him.
Tyreek Hill's ahead of Marv.
Yeah, by 13 spots.
Good. That's good. Thank God. But yeah, I don't know what to make of it either. Because it's kind of one of those things that I think has flown under the radar because it started off with Tua's injury, and it just hasn't gotten better to the extent that we thought it would when Tua came back. And I don't know. I just don't think people really know how to talk about the Dolphins' offense right now, like myself included. So I just don't really, because like Jalen Waddle obviously has had just as weird, if not a way weirder season than Tyreek Hill, and there wouldn't like the Tyreek Hill conversation. You could maybe, and I don't know if this is even true or not, but people are going to steer it to the, did he fall off? Has he lost a step? Is he still that guy? Waddle's like 23, 24. So he doesn't have those same concerns, but yet his season has been much worse than Tyreek Hill. So yeah,
these are generally the buys in Dynasty. Really talented pedigree of a player who just happens to have had a bad season. That's where you go and buy that player.
Yeah. Is it are you talking about Waddle or for both of these guys? Obviously,
Waddle. I think Tyreek Hill is kind of passing his buy window in Dynasty unless he starts off next year pretty hot. But I wouldn't be sending because you're still going to be asked for like a 1st and a 2nd at a minimum for Tyreek Hill.
What if Tyreek Hill is Chief next year?
That would be insane. But Xavier Worthy is doing everything we need him to do in the Tyreek Hill role.
He is. He is doing a lot. Okay. For my stream, it is if you need the stream quarterback this week, I feel very sorry for you. And there are probably people out there because, no Jalen Hurts. Maybe you're in a deeper league.
No Anthony Richardson.
No Anthony Richardson. And obviously no Dak. Been that way for a while. No Tua. Maybe I'm just not paying close enough attention, but the no Tua thing kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't even realize that he was injured or maybe not going to play. And it's not like the Dolphins are just in throw the like Chuba. It came out of nowhere, but also the Panthers are done, so it makes sense. The Dolphins are not done yet mathematically. They are still mathematically in it. So was just a little taken aback by that. But I'm just looking back at Bryce Young, and if you need somebody to throw in there, I think he's the best option for basically all of the reasons that I threw out there. And maybe you're listening to this and you've already played your streamer this week because Matthew Stafford played last night. He's probably a guy in that range. Smith, it went poorly, but he is a guy in that range. Drake May, another guy kind of in that streaming range. Was there anybody else playing today?
I did have Bryce Young as my streamer, but the second guy I was considering is Michael Penix, who
so I wrote him down and I actually wrote with it, do you have the balls to start him on the road in championship week if you need a guy? But he is at least in consideration, I think.
Yeah, well, and what we've learned from this week 17 that the NFL has set up is maybe fantasy commissioners have to start considering moving everything to week 16. Because the way the news has been coming out and the slow deluge of it, like the James Conner injury status, there were just so many uncertain players that you didn't know if they were certain by the Wednesday games, which was incredibly frustrating. But Michael Penix,
Christmas being on a Wednesday and the NFL choosing to play games on Christmas really exasperated what's already been a tough week for injuries anyway.
Yes, and then making some of the best fantasy teams play it. I mean, you had Baltimore playing, you had the Chiefs playing, you had the Texans playing, you had some of the most important teams for fantasy purposes playing in those games on 6 and 5 days of rest.
Yeah.
So rather absurd by the NFL. Please stop it. I actually prefer all my games on Sunday because if you haven't looked at the red zone slate, it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to turn red zone on today. It might be on and kind of half paid attention to while I do other things. It's that bad.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. But I do like the idea of Penix. Obviously, we're working with such a small amount of games you can pick from that it's really hard here. The Commanders' defense has been okay this year. Penix looked pretty good.
Yeah, I would say the Commanders are like a very average matchup for a quarterback. Excuse me.
And outside of the pick, that was completely not his fault. And he's probably learned now what every quarterback in Atlanta has learned, which is don't throw to Kyle Pitts.
I was going to say, if anyone did not see this, by completely not his fault, Dalton is actually underselling that. Kyle Pitts did the Kadarius Toney where he caught the ball, took it, and handed it to the defender and said, "Here you go, buddy."
In the red zone.
This could have maybe been a touchdown if I break a tackle. Instead, you take the ball and go the other way with it. It was horrible.
Yeah, and then outside of that, I mean, if you're really desperate and you need like a good floor option, you can go with Joe Flacco. They play the Giants defense, which is 30th against the pass this season. He has been out with his offense. He knows how to use it. I'm sure it's going to be a heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor in this game. They should lead for most of the game, but Josh Downs has shown a good connection with Joe Flacco. And one, I would be starting him in most situations. And two, I think Joe Flacco probably has a pretty safe floor. For whatever reason, this Colts offense changes dramatically under Joe Flacco from Anthony Richardson. And I don't hate that one.
Yeah.
Got a question here from Alex.
Yep, Rico Dowdle or Tajay Spears. Tajay Spears, I think, pretty easily for both of us.
Yeah, we both. Spears is my start of the week, and I think he could very well be the Dark Horse League winner for you. Has a really easy matchup against the Jaguars. Heavy rain implied in the game, so I think they'll keep the ball on the ground. And he's just been so electric the last 2 weeks. I would run the hot hand.
Yeah, and Rico Dowdle is in a tough spot where the Bucs have been one of the best rush defenses this year, and especially over the last month or so. Or excuse me, the Eagles. He just played the Bucs, who also were one of the best rush defenses. He had a bad game last week. I'm expecting a similarly bad game against the Eagles. Very strong rush defense this week. no CeeDee Lamb, very low implied point total. I think just the avenues for success for Rico Dowdle are very narrow, and they are either 25 touches and or a touchdown, whereas Tajay Spears, great matchup. The volume looks like it's probably going to be there. I am in on Tajay Spears. I also think Tajay Spears is just a way better player too.
Same.
Okay. For stream of the week, real quick, back to it. For Michael Penix, I don't know what you thought, how much of the game you were able to catch. I obviously just saw what Red Zone was showing me in windows here and there last week, but I thought he looked pretty good. I mean, I know it's the Giants. He wasn't asked to do much, but the very simple thing of being on time and on target, hitting guys in stride, Kirk Cousins has not been doing that, just like arm strength wise, has not been able to do that. I actually thought that Penix did a really good job in that regard this week. So feeling pretty good about Drake London. And yeah, I do think you could do worse than Penix as an emergency stream play this week. Some other potential options. Kenny Pickett against Dallas. He has a great offense around him, obviously. Mason Rudolph plays the Jags. I know it's a rain game. I know it's Mason Rudolph, but the Jags have been the worst defense in EPA allowed per pass attempt this year. So again, those are very desperate plays. I hope you have better options than those two guys. Dalton, do you have a tight end stream that you like this week?
Brenton Strange for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's been second on the team in total target share since Evan Ingram has gone down. Mac Jones has shown a propensity to be able to throw the ball, especially to Brenton Strange. He's also top 10 in forced missed tackle rate among all tight ends through the season. So he's been pretty evasive with the ball in his hands. Mm-hmm. And really, you're just playing a dart throw game here. I know David Njoku is out. You look at the Saints, and the Saints have so many different guys playing tight end. You're probably not starting Jonnu Smith this week. So all in all, pretty hard. The other guy on this list, I didn't look at his roster percentage, but he has flown pretty under the radar, is Zach Ertz, who has been pretty involved in the Washington pass game, and I would expect for him to stay pretty involved.
Yeah, I didn't look at this guy's roster percentage. Maybe he's already owned. But if you have Chig Okonkwo, I'm firing him up this week. For the Titans, his best 2 games of the year have come in the last 5 weeks. He's had 3 games of 9.9 points or more out of his last 5, which for a tight end, especially for a tight end not named like Kelsey, Kittle, McBride, Bowers, that is almost impossible to find. In his last 2 weeks, 21 targets, 17 catches. And this is from Yahoo. His targets per route run rate with Mason Rudolph at quarterback jumps to 23.7%, and his yards per route run to 1.6. So he's been better with Mason Rudolph. He has a good matchup. He's been playing well. I think it's lining up for Chig Okonkwo to have a nice week for you this week.
I did just see a picture of the field in Jacksonville, and it is covered in rain. Go ahead and show anybody watching here.
The rain can benefit the offense because the offense knows where they're going. The defense does not.
It is not looking great there. It looks like a deluge of rain.
It looks like it's mostly on the sideline. The
puddle is probably by design.
Man, someone's going to score a touchdown in that back left pylon back there and just land in a lake, and it's going to be hilarious.
Yes, it's going to be a sloppy game, which I hope is good for Tajay Spears.
Streaming defenses,
anybody up if you need to.
Anybody playing the Giants is probably picked up. The good defenses probably picked up. If you're looking for a dart throw defense that might still be out there against a bad offense, I'm looking at the Saints against the Raiders. AOC at quarterback, Alexander Madison, the starting running back. Like the Saints they have guys on that defense who can force turnovers, who can sack the quarterback, and the Raiders have an offense and a quarterback who are willing to allow you to do both. So I think if you're looking for a high upside play at defense, if the top ones are already taken, I think you could do worse than the Saints in this matchup.
Yeah, and I went with the Miami Dolphins on the same guideline. DTR
Yeah.
starting for the Browns.
Yeah.
It's also a weather game. Surprise, surprise. Week 17 is the week from hell for fantasy football. And this Dolphins defense has been pretty good all season against the pass. And Jerome Ford doesn't really scare me off of them as far as this game's going to go.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, Dalton, I think that is going to do it for us today. Thank you for those who swooped in real quick last minute to join us. We do appreciate it. We will be back with a podcast this week. I don't know what day yet because every holiday is on a Wednesday this year, which is usual pod day. That's New Year's Day. Obviously not going to do one probably New Year's Eve either. But also doesn't have to be. We're not previewing any games next week. We're not talking about Week 18. If you're playing Week 18, God bless you. We'll answer questions in the chat about Week 18 games if they come. Otherwise, I think we are going to be doing top 12 for 2025 next week. So should be fun. Thank you guys as always for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.